platforms. Fun. Okay. So, Instagram, Facebook, hello. Happy Friday. I have a super funny story to tell you both. So, today's live is going to be about dealing with the pressure that we get under when we think we got to do everything. Okay. When we think we got to address everything in one visit as a physician. But here's the funny story. I thought that I was doing a live on a different topic today. So, um, I threw this together pretty fast for you guys. And if I forget anything that I wanted to tell you about, I promise I will write you some updates or I'll record another video for you all because this was an unexpected surprise to me when I read the email that I sent you guys earlier today to remind you about my Friday Live at 5 today. I was like, oh, that is not the topic that I prepared for. So anyway, hello and welcome to anybody who's joining us for the first time. I am your host, Anna Blake, and I'm a family physician. I'm also a life coach who specializes in burnout recovery for female physicians and prevention of burnout for female physicians. And this is a live show where I answer questions that female physicians have asked me about some of the challenges that they face in their work, or where I teach on a common topic that comes up time and time again in my coaching groups that I run for female physicians. So I'm just easing my way back into my family practice after a 9-month hiatus when I had some pregnancy issues, and then I've been on maternity leave. And I just want to say that I have a whole new appreciation for the amazing and challenging work that we do as physicians. It's amazing how when you take like a little time away, you feel pretty bombarded when you come back. I had some serious anxiety this morning when I sat down to my first like actual full clinic morning, and I had to do some serious thought work to remind myself what I'm capable of and to not get into like total overwhelm, total panic. But we survived, and surprise, surprise, it went better than I thought it was going to go. Anybody surprised? No, right? Because that's always how it goes. And of course, I also have upgraded to this beautiful Mac computer, which I love, and I'm finally getting really good at using. And it turns out I'm far from adept at using it with our EMR. And today was, of course, the first day I tried to use it with our EMR because, as you might be able to tell, I've got a bit of a cold. I'm kind of congested, and I've been staying at home isolating, trying to protect everybody else in the world from the daycare germs that are just like hitting us one after another after another. But turns out it made my life a whole lot harder because I kept hitting the command instead of the I have to even look at the key to figure out which one it is, the control key. And that just was shutting my EMR down and doing all kinds of things to my EMR that were just not fun. So anyway, between that and cracking up about how I prepared for a topic that apparently I'm going to deliver in a few weeks and not this one today, it's just been a day for something I advocate strongly for, which is B- work. So, I pivoted with the few minutes I had between my afternoon coaching group and now, and our topic for today is going to focus on the excessive pressure that we feel when we think we need to get through everything in one visit. So, I've seen this a lot in women physicians, and sometimes it's in the flavor of like family physicians that are in a capitated model and they're saying like it makes more sense for me to do everything in one visit. Sometimes it's specialists, often women, right, who are taking way longer to see patients than their male colleagues. And it's because they think patients don't have reliable information, especially women physicians looking after women patients, right? We're often thinking when we're dealing with issues that affect women that they don't have reliable sources of information elsewhere. So we feel like we need to cover everything when they're there and they're with us. And we have really good intentions, right? Or we tell ourselves, like, my patient came with a list of 18 things. This is what they expect me to do, right? But here's the thing. It's our thought that we need to get through everything right now that creates that feeling of excessive pressure, which causes us to spend excess time with each patient, putting off doing the charting, working late, sacrificing our own well-being, right? Or time with our families, and feeling like we just can't quite ever get everything done. And here's what I mean by this, right? We think to ourselves that I need to get everything done right now. Okay. So we have this thought, and then what happens is we feel pressure. And then what happens, right? We can't problem solve, we can't triage, we can't decide what needs to be done in the moment or what could be deferred to a later date. And we just become hyper focused on trying to get everything done right now. And we get into this model of people pleasing, despite the fact that we're feeling resentment and we feel out of control and we feel like we can't say no. We feel like we have no other options. And we begin to repeat this pattern over and over and over again. And over time, that starts to contribute to our experience of burnout and our experience of really this just general feeling of cynicism and compassion fatigue with our patients. Hi, Cindy. Hi, Jen. So, as I wrote about in my email today, I want you to think about a situation that's unfamiliar to you. So, like, say for instance, I don't know if you're not financially oriented, say you're going to see your financial planner, okay? Or, for me, having a business, right? I have now got a CFO working with me. And when I think about going to meet with my CFO, it's always like a bit, unfamiliar to me. I always have a lot of questions. I have a lot of things I think I need to know, right? Or say, for instance, you're building a house, okay? You might have, again, a lot of things you think you need to know, some unfamiliar things for you, okay? So you come and you seek professional help. And you ask somebody like, this is what I want to do. You've got a bunch of questions. Now imagine they explain everything to you, like every little detail, and they cover like everything you're going to need to know in 2 months from now, in 3 months from now, to like the nth degree of detail. And then they're like, okay, bye bye. Don't come back and see me for a long time. Are you starting to see where I'm going? This is kind of what we try to do sometimes with our patients, right? We're like, but we're doing it with good intentions. We think we're helping, but they have to try to integrate all of that information too and go home and understand something. And even though we think we're being very thorough and we're doing it from a place of caring about our patients and wanting the best for them, we aren't um critically thinking about if everything we're doing is actually even helpful to our patients, especially also if we are in that place of feeling like really rushed or really pressured. Like, are we giving them the best advice? Are we really thinking through the problems, or are both us and the patient better served by us delaying some things to another visit? Okay, because it's really overwhelming. Imagine yourself again in the position of that unfamiliar situation. It's really overwhelming to come in to someone's office and have them give you everything all at once, even if you think you need it. Okay. So, what happens, right, is I was observing this as I met with my CFO this week. And I was observing that I went into the meeting expecting and thinking that I needed to know all these things. And then she gave me like a few key things I needed to know and that I needed to do. And it made everything so much clearer to me. I knew I didn't have all the answers, but she then reassured me that we were going to deal with those things in the future the next time we meet and that they weren't needed right now. And I went away from the meeting like feeling not overwhelmed, feeling so clear, feeling so calm. And I started thinking about this, right? About what if like that's how we started to think about our patient interactions. So I encountered a post this week um from someone in a group on Facebook, and it really had the flavor of this, and so I wanted to share some of this with you guys here. So she came into the group posting wanting advice for how to minimize wait time as a family physician, and this is what she said about her practice. I have a heavy young female prenatal practice, and I do a week of hospice every 2 months. Currently, my in-person wait time is 6+ weeks because babies and prenatals are getting precedent right now. And my practice is about 1,000 patients, and I book typically 18 to 25 patients a day at 20-minute appointments. So I showed her how, like, straight up what she's giving there is a like the circumstances of her practice, okay? And I told her like there isn't really anything right or wrong about how we do things in our office. Like there's not like some ideal thing that, we have to eventually achieve, but everything we do is worth questioning. So I asked her like, what if you didn't need 20 minutes for all patients? Because 20 minutes times 25 patients a day is 8.5 hours. And that's a lot of time to ask our human brain to perform for, especially if like we run late, right? But I also offered her this. What sort of things can she do in less time, especially if she was adopting this mindset that I'm talking about of like maybe not all the information in one visit is in service to our patients, okay? And I said to her, like, "Is there anything you're doing with your patients that you're doing with patients is everything, excuse me, that you're doing with your patients translating into them getting what they need, which is high quality medical care from a provider they trust, right? If not, what can we start to reduce? Where can we put boundaries in place, right? Where can we teach our patients that maybe it's not in service to you to do all of this today? Like maybe we should defer some of this to another visit, right? Maybe that thing that's been bothering you for a long time doesn't need attention today, right? Because or maybe there just isn't something that we can do, and that part of this is just validating the patient experience that it sucks to have problems that there isn't necessarily always a solution for. Um, so she went on to say, oh, and I said to her too, how could you teach your new moms and prenatal patients the same information without having to say it all in the same visit? So we can start to ask ourselves, like, what do I do repetitively over and over and over again? Maybe I can disseminate this information in another way. Maybe I can make a video and I can give it to my patients. Maybe I can, make a handout. Like there are different ways we can do things, you guys. And when we're in our like tapping into our innovative self, what happens is that we start to get into this situation where we can actually consider other things being possible that maybe can start to allow us to free up some time in our schedule and not feel so pressured all the time to do so many things in our visits. So, um, what else? So, she went on to say that she usually runs behind 20 to 30 minutes each day because she does some psychotherapy or she takes complex lists from patients. And she said that she'd love to be able to tell them, like, why don't you come back in a few weeks, which is always the toted advice, right? Of like, just book a follow up with those patients and we'll touch base on that topic. But she feels forced to review all the complaints because it's so hard to get patients into her office. So notice a few things here, right? First of all, she thinks 6 weeks is so hard getting patients into her office. But think about how long most people sit around with some kind of problem before they do anything about it. Okay. Even if it's like something surgical, right? Like, think about how long we're not talking most of the time, right, about emergency things. Obviously, this is different if you're doing emergency medicine, right? But these are problems that tend to be problems that we have when we have some kind of practice where we see chronic issues, right? And sometimes we put so much pressure on ourselves because we think something needs to be dealt with faster than some benchmark that we have just made up in our mind, right? 6 weeks being problematic. And also, right? Also, she's saying here that um she's running 20 to 30 minutes behind because she's providing certain types of services for her patients. And so I asked her, like, do those things really need to take that much time? And I think we never are taught in our training to like critically think about this. We're never taught to ask ourselves, um, what if I didn't have to do this way? What if it didn't have to take this much time? And this is something that really became so eye-opening to me when I started doing medicine in a different way. And when I started putting boundaries in place, and when I learned the things that helped me recover from burnout and that I now teach to women physicians, because when I started to think about like, what is the balance between active listening and empowering questions? Like, what are the ways I can get patients to connect the dots in their brain so that my brain doesn't have to work as hard in the visit? What are the things that really need immediate care here, right? What is the thing that the patient has had forever? And just because they brought it today, is there really any reason why I need to deal with it today or why I need to deal with it in 6 weeks, right? And maybe, right? Maybe I can even say to them, I think this is going to get better on its own. And if it doesn't, then you call me back in a certain period of time, because this would be when I would be worried about the problem, right? Without actually fully doing the whole history and assessment of the problem, right? Or maybe sometimes it's, as simple as us reminding our patients that they can trust us to triage their medical problems, that they can trust us that if we don't think this thing needs to be dealt with today, that it can wait. Um, Maybe we just have to trust ourselves that if that thing really needs to be dealt with in 2 weeks' time, that we know how to manage our own schedule and make that thing work if that's really truly what needs to be done, right? But there's so many things that come up here when we think we have to do things a certain way, when we think we have to deal with the complex list, that prevent us from problem solving the ways around this kind of stuff. So, um, they're all thought exercises that open up the possibility of efficiency for us. So they're all things that we can start to pick up where there's a problem with efficiency in what we do, right? And really start to question if it's even necessary for us to do all the things in one visit. So, sort of two different ways to look at it, right? Because sometimes we can get more done in a visit than we really think we can, but other times the problem is more around our expectation of ourselves and what we think we need to be able to do. So, um, and the other thing I want to add is the reason why it's worth asking ourselves these questions is I think sometimes when we put these expectations on ourselves, it actually causes more disconnection and fragmentation of the doctor patient relationship than when we um, offer them the opportunity, right, to learn. So let me see, let me rephrase this. When we offer them the opportunity to together look at the problems, right? And to do this in some kind of a combined effort. And when we offer them reassurance and trust that we're here for them, and that will help them, that it's a process, right? It's an evolving process of helping people with certain types of complaints. I think what happens is they see that we're on their team and we're going to work with them, versus when we believe there isn't enough time, we have to rush through everything in one visit. That is the exact same message the patient gets, right? And it's worth considering if that's potentially damaging to our doctor patient relationship when we say to when we give our patients the message of we have to rush and deal with all of this in one visit because I don't have time to see you again. Okay. So that's what I'm going to leave you with to think about. Okay, Jackie, you're raising a valid point, right? I worry that they won't read the handout. Doesn't matter. We don't know, right? I mean, even when you say something to someone, there's no guarantee, right? When you say something to them that they understand or that they're going to integrate everything. Like that's part of what I'm trying to show you here, right? Is that we think it's for us and our level of comfort that we tell patients everything we think they need to know all at once. And we just like verbal diarrhea, spit it out, right? It's like, so we can we can pat ourselves on the back or cross off something that says that, we're not going to get sued or somebody's not going to complain that we didn't do something. But the question is it helpful to the patient? Sometimes, right, patients come to us and they're like, they didn't say that to me. And then you're like, well, it's clearly documented in the note, right? And we know that it's because they can't process all of the new information. So if we're thinking about it in a stepwise fashion, right, and what they need to know now and what they might need to know later, sure, there's certain things they need to know, but probably not everything that we tell them, right? Or maybe that we tell them like 3 times in the visit, because we also do that too, repeat ourselves a lot as women physicians. So I see where you're coming from with will they read it, but we can't guarantee they're integrating the information um, in that visit. They will very likely read the medical information that you give them if they think it's relevant to them and it matters. If they have that thought leading them to take an action. So, my offering there is it's worth testing, right? It's worth testing to see, or maybe you say the like key things you want them to know and you say I've elaborated on this in this handout that I really carefully wrote up for you to make sure that you get all the information about this problem. I highly recommend that you read it because it's going to help you between now and our next visit, right? The way you sell them on it is going to be so crucial in all of this. Um, Yeah, right, Cindy. And it's the truth with everything, right? I think we never really avoid that. Like, even if we say it to the patient, we can't skip around the fact that the patients ultimately are the ones who get to decide what they do with their health in between. So, Cindy says here, right, I've learned that you can only do your best with a patient when you provide information in writing, but ultimately they're responsible for their own health and to read what they're provided. And so she's right? There is some decision making, but there's also a process of evaluating, right? If that's not, you can try something and decide if it's working or not. And sometimes things you say in your visit are totally fine. Like it's not black or white that whether what you say in your visit is good or bad or helpful or not helpful. It's more about the critical thought that goes into deciding what is necessary, right? And how you deliver that message to your patients. And I certainly don't think that when we're in the mindset of feeling under pressure to do everything, that we perform the best way that we can perform. So when it's all said and done, the belief that we have to do everything is always something that's in our control and available to us to test whether or not we really want to continue to believe that about the work that we do. Because if we decide we don't, then we get to start to ask ourselves, I don't have all the answers for how to make it right in your practice, but we get to start to ask ourselves some innovative questions about how we could maybe change this in the future. Okay. So that's all I have for you guys for today. Thanks for hanging out with me when I was like a little bit less organized than I would have ideally liked to be, but you're going to have a really good Friday Live at 5 coming up in the next couple of weeks about the topic that I thought I was posting about today. So I'll edit it on Facebook because it's not right. Okay. Take care, everybody. Happy weekend. Bye.